So thank you again to everyone who is here for the Big Ten Graduate School Expo. We're really excited that you can join us from wherever you might be coming across the country. And so before we really launch off and kick off this session, I'm gonna hand it over to our Associate Dean, Dr. Donna Weinstein, and she's gonna give us a quick introduction, a quick welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Jackie, for hosting the event, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And welcome to the Big Ten Grad Expo, and specifically to the College of Engineering. I'm the Associate Dean of Graduate Education here in the College of Engineering at Purdue. I'm also an Associate Professor in Electrical and Computer Engineering, and one of the core faculty of the Burke Nanotechnology Center. So hopefully you guys have a chance to peruse through with virtual tours and other events throughout your visit, and have a chance to get to know everything that's going on around here. Purdue is a dynamic and exciting place both to work and to learn. Hopefully, as you'll get to see over the next day and a half, we have many research opportunities as well as educational programs to meet a growing variety of needs for our next academics and entrepreneurs, as well as industrial professionals. Purdue has grown dramatically in number of faculty over the past decade. I came here as part of that boom in our numbers. I moved here 5 years ago from Boston, and honestly, I'm still overwhelmed by the breadth of research, by the growth of our resources, both in research and teaching, and most importantly, the collaborative nature of our faculty and of our students. That is something that is really unique to Purdue, and something that I very, very much value here. Grad school is a wonderful opportunity. Obviously, it's going to prepare you academically and professionally for a myriad of career options, whatever they are. It's going to expand your horizons in new fields, perhaps in areas you didn't even know existed and didn't have the chance to explore and to develop as undergraduates, or in whatever stage you are in your career path right now. But equally, it's going to be a chance to make friends, to make connections, to build networks that will really stay with you for your entire careers. So we hope that you get everything out of this event and in the next couple of days that you're looking for. There are going to be chances to learn more about schools and programs here in the Purdue College of Engineering. You'll get a chance to talk in small groups or one-on-one with faculty, grad students, and program coordinators. And you'll get to experience virtual tours of the campus of the many cutting edge labs and centers that we have here. And hopefully when all of this COVID stuff is over, we can host you in person as well. For those of you who are interested in research paths, I encourage you to reach out directly to faculty as well, in addition to all of the events that we're going to have. We have many faculty with brilliant ideas who need motivated, bright students to develop those ideas, to execute on them, and eventually to come up with new ideas of your own, which of course means it's time to graduate and the next student has to take over. But whether you're a senior or post-senior looking at applications to grad school this year, or whether you're earlier on in your education and you want to learn more about graduate school and perhaps look at summer research opportunities, we welcome you and hope you get the most out of your Grad Expo this year. We understand that it is late for many of you, and we're so thankful that all of you have joined in today. So welcome and enjoy the experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Excellent. So thank you again, Associate Dean Donna Weinstein, for that great introduction and that great welcome to Purdue Engineering. So before we begin today, I want to make sure that we set certain ground rules for the presentation. And so one thing that we should always make sure of is that if you have any questions, definitely put those in the Q&A located down below. And if you have any questions, put your questions in the Q&A. And let me go back really quick. Thank you. And really sorry, wait one second. Excellent. Okay, so if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the Q&A. And while we get started, again, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. So my name is Dr. Jackie McDermott, and I am the Assistant Director of Graduate Recruitment and Retention here at Purdue University College of Engineering. And before we really launch into this welcome session, I really want to introduce our team in the Office of Graduate Education, because they're familiar faces that you'll see a lot in this virtual space at Purdue over the next day or so. And so this is our graduate education team led by our fearless leaders, Associate Dean, Dr. Donna Weinstein, as well as Dr. Janet Beagle, who is our Senior Director of Graduate Programs. And also during the sessions, the next few days of sessions, you will meet Joanne Lax, who is our Graduate Technical Communications and Professional Development Specialist. And so she runs a lot of workshops for our graduate students. And our fabulous administrative assistant, senior administrative assistants, Ashley Zink and Stephanie Porter, nothing would really roll without them. So I just want to introduce you very quickly to our team. And our engineering graduate education team actually works very closely with our engineering disciplines and schools and programs, like Dr. Donna Weinstein said, as well as with the Purdue University Graduate School, so that Central Graduate School. And so during this Big Ten Plus Grad Expo, we really hope that you'll be exposed to our different engineering programs and faculty, and you'll learn a little bit more about what it's like to be a grad student, and maybe even if Purdue might be a good fit for you. So before we really launch into this, I want to take a few minutes to talk about Purdue Engineering and where we're located. So Purdue University is located in West Lafayette, Indiana, and so we're about an hour outside of Purdue. Purdue is an hour outside of Indianapolis, Indiana, and we're about 2 to 3 hours outside of Chicago, Illinois. And so here on this map, you'll see some representative distances. I'm originally from the Boston area, so you can see on the map here on the East Coast. And I did all my graduate school training there and then moved out to Purdue. And so Boston to New York, just for reference for some of you guys who aren't from the United States, that's about a 2 to 3 hour flight. So Purdue is really centrally located within the country, and that really allows us to do a lot of really cool things here at Purdue. So a few other fun facts about Purdue. So Purdue University has a little over 40,000 students, and so that's both undergraduate and graduate students. There's about 9,000 students who are graduate students on campus, and so that ranges from engineering graduate students to science and humanities and the arts. And about a third of those, a little more than a third, about 3,800 graduate students are engineering graduate students. And about 44% of our total, all the students on campus are international students. And so here in this photo, what you can see is a picture of our engineering mall. And so you can see our engineering fountain right in the center. And all of these really pretty brick buildings surrounding this mall are all of our engineering buildings. If you go up this walkway up here, it takes you up to our stadium. And all of the buildings that line that are engineering buildings. We also have other parts of campus that we'll talk a little bit about later that also have a number of really amazing engineering facilities. But again, I just wanted to reintroduce you to this. And I will say that, we're very proud of our engineering graduate programs here at Purdue. We're in the top 10 engineering graduate programs in the United States. And we're actually ranked 3rd in the United States for engineering programs at a public institution. And so we really pride ourselves for being cutting edge and collaborative, as Dr. Weinstein suggested at the beginning. So we're really excited about this. And so what is our goal for today? I want to walk you through really quickly what we will be talking about during this welcome session, as well as the remainder kind of the rest of our night, but who knows what time of day it is for you guys. So in this welcome, I'm gonna go over some additional Purdue Engineering information, but I also want to talk a little bit about the schedule. And so at 5 p.m., and these are all in Eastern time, we will have a graduate student panel. So we're gonna have some of our awesome graduate students join us to provide their perspectives and experiences. And then around 6 p.m., we'll transition into virtual tours of our 4 large research centers. And I'll review some slides shortly to discuss what type of research occurs at each of these centers to kind of frame what choice you want to make for which virtual tour you'd like to go on. And then tomorrow, there's a lot of really great opportunities to visit with engineering programs, not only our Purdue engineering programs, but you'll also have opportunities to visit with other visiting virtual institutions. So definitely take advantage of those opportunities. But one of the really cool and different things that we're doing for you this year is having some research information sessions and various presentations with our faculty. And so this will allow you to really have an opportunity to get to know what's happening right now in Purdue Engineering. And so this is really special. We're really excited to be able to offer this to you guys. So please definitely check that out, and I encourage you to mark your schedules for that. And then tomorrow night, on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll be having a closing session. And so this will hopefully help provide some insight into what your next steps should be moving forward as a senior, as a junior. There are a few sophomores on here, so that's exciting too. So what are your next steps following this expo? And if you have any questions or any concerns as you're going through this virtual Grad Expo experience, please don't hesitate to email our engrgrad@purdue.edu email, and hopefully we'll be checking that. And then I will say that we are constantly making sure that we have the most up-to-date schedule, and so that will be at the tiny URL that you've probably gotten in the emails from us. And we will be chatting this into the chat after each session. So don't fret, we'll send that to you and you'll be able to know exactly what's going on and when. So one question you might be asking is, how do I get the most out of this Big Ten plus Expo, the virtual experience? And so what I will say is, tonight we're going to have our visits with the different engineering graduate programs. If you're a senior and about to apply, go visit with them, talk with them. And if you're a younger student that you're not really sure who to visit with, then pick a program that closely aligns with your interests and go visit with them, learn a little bit more. And I would say plan now. So tonight, go over the schedule for tomorrow. And I know that some of you guys have classes because you guys are still students. So make sure that you are looking into what programs there are, what deadlines there are. But if you plan now for tomorrow, then you'll be able to kind of juggle it all. So I would definitely recommend that you identify different Monday presentations and research info sessions that you want to attend and which universities you'd also like to visit with. Work out your schedule tonight for tomorrow so that you can get it all in and you can check off all your boxes and learn as much as you can. Yeah, and check what time programs are there so that you can really stop by and chat with them. So furthermore, if you've registered and attend the Big Ten Grad Expo, which you're doing right now, so it's great, then you're eligible for a graduate application fee waiver so that you can apply to Purdue University graduate programs for free. And so the instructions are located on the Grad Expo website in order to, some things that you want to be looking out for include visiting with different institutions and then going to some workshops, reading some articles, doing the event survey. So make sure you follow this list if you'd like to receive the graduate application fee waiver. And if you have any questions about these requirements, please email that gradexpo@purdue.edu email directly. They'll be able to help with any questions you might have. Okay, and I am going to probably take questions at the end. I know that you guys are dropping them in, but I'm going to keep moving for now. So I want to quickly transition to some Purdue history. And so Purdue Engineering does have this history of innovation. So we were the first women in engineering program in the country. And we just celebrated our 50th year anniversary, which was really exciting. We were the founding home for the National Society of Black Engineers. And so we had about 6 of our engineering students form this back in the 70s. And again, that's something we're very proud of. We are the #1 destination for international students pursuing engineering degrees. And we are known as kind of the cradle of astronauts. And so we have 25 astronaut alums total. And we are really proud of to boast of the first and the last, or the first and the most recent men to walk on the moon, both Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan as alumni. And more recently, in 2019, we're excited because one of our alumni, named Beth Moses, actually made history with Virgin Galactic and became the first female commercial astronaut. So we have a really fun history of being known as the cradle of astronauts. And we have over 400 research labs on our West Lafayette campus. And so I want to quickly transition into some of the major research labs that you have an opportunity to be exposed to over this Big Ten Grad Expo event. So from the largest to the smallest, I wanted to provide a quick snapshot of the research facilities at Purdue. And these are going to be some of the different places that you can take a live virtual tour of later in this programming. So we'll start with Bowen Laboratory for large-scale civil engineering research. Bowen is a 66,000 square foot lab that provides space and the technical capability that's really needed to study these large structural models, elements, all related to earthquakes and blasts and impact. And so I kind of think of this Bowen facility as a building that is used to study other buildings. It's pretty cool. And then, so that's kind of our large facility there. And then we have another large facility that studies small things. And so we have the Burke Nanotechnology Center. And this center and the facility actually includes a 25,000 square foot ISO class 3, 4, 5, and 6 nanofab clean room. And so this has the pharmaceutical grade biomolecular clean room. You can study a number of things there, including nanoelectronics, photonics, energy, micro electromechanical systems, nanobiotechnology, and also nanomanufacturing. So it's a really cool facility. It's located in Discovery Park District, which is a highly interdisciplinary area on campus. So those are some of, so those are 2 of our large research centers. Another research center on campus is Herrick Laboratories, and so this is primarily a mechanical engineering laboratory. And so Herrick is about 83,000 square feet of space. And so here they get the researchers, they study HVAC and indoor air quality, advanced engine test cells, acoustics, noise, vibration testing, and some really cool, unique perception-based engineering labs. And so engineering, our Herrick Labs actually is also home to the Center of High Performance Buildings, which partners with industry in order to develop some really cool technology in terms of sustainable building systems and more. So those are some highlights of Herrick. And finally, Zucro Labs. We have Zucro Labs, which is the world's largest academic propulsion lab. So this is a really cool facility that is about 24-acre site that's adjacent to the Purdue University Airport. And they focus on research including aerodynamics, turbomachinery, aeroacoustics, combustion, and more. And one of our notable alumni is, or our 24th astronaut for Purdue is Laurel O'Hara, and she was part of the 2017 NASA astronaut class. So this is a little bit of information about our core research facilities that you'll get a chance to see later. But I also want to take a few minutes to share some information about our students and the campus. So we're really proud of our graduate student organizations and our graduate students because they help to build a community for all of kind of our engineering graduate students. So we have discipline-specific organizations. We have activity-based organizations. We also have a student government for the graduate students, and we also have a graduate student advisory committee. And so Purdue boasts of over 1,000 plus organizations. If there's something you want to do, it's on campus, and that's really exciting. And there's also, we also at Purdue have our Graduate Student Center. And so this Graduate Student Center is another place that we hope that our graduate students are building community. So this is a building that has about 100 or so person conference room or a room that people can hold workshops. And then it also has a lounge, a kitchen, a study room, and more. And so this is another great space that our graduate students can use to get to know other graduate students, maybe in different disciplines, and to get together for events. And in terms of, one important aspect of being a graduate student is keeping a positive mental health. It's, graduate school is hard, but we want to make sure that you have those areas as other areas as outlets. And so one thing I really want to highlight here is we have our co-recreational facility, or kind of the gym on campus. The co-rec is named as such because it was actually one of the very first co-educational recreation facilities on campus, on a university campus. And so this facility includes 2 swimming pools, a diving well, climbing and bouldering walls, 2 indoor tracks, courts, martial arts, fitness classes, cooking classes. They literally, you want it, they have it. It's a really exciting facility. And a number of our students, our graduate students in engineering, engage in intramural and club sports. So over the summer, you'll see a lot of them playing soccer, or different sports in that space. And I will say that, in terms of the broader community, Purdue is located in the West Lafayette area. And so it's centrally located with 4 fun seasons. We have award-winning school systems. It's safe, friendly, and affordable. It's very affordable, especially coming from the Boston area. We have 30 miles of trails and parks, and you'll see at the bottom right of my screen, there is the buses that go, and the city bus that kind of circulates around campus. And this is free for all Boilermakers or all Purdue students with their student ID. And so it makes it really easy to kind of live in both the West Lafayette community or even a little bit outside because we have these bus systems that kind of go around and that are free. And in terms of the West Lafayette community, there's a number of festivals, concerts, farmers markets, events in town. So it really is a college town located in Indiana, and it has some really great resources. So with that, I think we have about 5 minutes to take questions. So I'm going to stop screen sharing, and then we will let's see if there's any questions that I can take. So I think that Dr. Janet Beagle has been trying to field those as well.
Hi, Jackie. One question that I'll just chime in here. I've been trying to just type a lot of answers, so certainly folks can look at the typed answers to some of the more specific questions. One of the more general questions somebody asked is, you were talking about the co-rec. What has that been like with the COVID virus now?
Yeah, so I did hear that the co-rec was open again, and our grad students on the panel that's coming up shortly, they might be able to chime in on that from the student experience, but I've actually heard that they have like kind of a sign-up schedule with COVID, so you can sign up for different workout times. The caveat with that is that if you missed your time, then you lose your ability to access the co-rec. So so it is open. They are regulating how many people can go in right now. But as of probably a few weeks ago, that was what I heard in terms of how that relates to COVID. Yeah.
Right. And another question we had, this one was specifically saying I'm pursuing my undergrad degree in Mississippi, but just kind of a general question that I think is good for everybody. Does it matter where you did your undergrad degree, and how much does that factor in to your graduate application?
So I would say that all of our schools try to take a very holistic approach in the application process. What I would recommend is really trying to make sure you maximize how much research experience you have if you're interested in kind of a PhD program. We don't, like I said, our schools try to look holistically. It will depend program to program. But if you're coming from a smaller school and you have just a beefed up research background and experience, then that I would say, that can outweigh if coming from a smaller institution. So.
Great.
And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. In terms of any fee waiver questions, I would definitely encourage you to talk with the graduate school or Grad Expo at purdue.edu directly. But I would be shocked if they require you to stay for the entire time that an institution is scheduled for. They want to see that you're engaging with the different institutions while they're here on campus.
And can you talk a little bit about master's versus PhD? And is it possible to kind of start with a master's and then go on to a PhD? Is it better if you know you want a PhD to go directly PhD? Just a little bit about that comparison between those two.
Yeah, so again, I think it'll come down to how much research experience you currently have. So if you feel like you don't have a lot of research experience, then then a master's might be a great place to start. I would also say that in order for when you go for a PhD, I would highly encourage you to know your motivation for going for a PhD. If you know that you need a PhD to become a professor, you need a PhD to become a leader in industry, then having or knowing that and having that kind of motivation and drive can be very helpful. In terms of which one do you apply for right now? Again, I think it's going to depend on your background, what your research interests are, and what your career interests are. So again, if you're not sure if the PhD is for you, apply for a master's, right? If you know that you're going to want a PhD in the long run and you feel like you have some good experience and you have your motivation, then I would encourage you to apply for the PhD program. Sometimes faculty, if they don't think that, sometimes if you're really close to the PhD admissions, but you don't get it, they might recommend a master's degree. And so sometimes that happens with graduate programs as well.
All right, and maybe one last question, Jackie. I know you're getting ready to transfer over to the panelists, but thesis versus non-thesis, what is that? What's the difference between those programs?
Yeah, so a thesis is a research-based program. A non-thesis is more coursework. And so whether you choose a thesis or the thesis that research and some courses or a non-thesis will again depend on your interests kind of going forward. If you want to be doing more research, then I would highly suggest thinking about a thesis master's degree. If you're thinking more professional, like you would be like we have engineering management courses, we have professional master's based programs. So again, these are mostly non-thesis. They're preparing you more for that administrative or businessy side of engineering. That is one place where I'd recommend a non-thesis master's degree. Great. So yeah, definitely keep the questions coming. We will try to get to the ones we can, but right now we're going to transition over to our graduate student panel. So if our graduate students would like to maybe share their screen, that'd be awesome. Perfect. And I am going to quickly introduce them, and then I will introduce them briefly, and then I will let them introduce themselves. Let me just make sure that I have the chat pulled up, or the Q&A, which appeared to disappear. Let's do that. Perfect. Okay. So today we actually have 3 really awesome graduate students joining us. So we have Angel Enriquez from Biomedical Engineering. We have Dana Ovanoff from Mechanical Engineering, and we have Somosnita Mitra from Electrical and Computer Engineering. So really quickly, let us start by maybe turning it over to each of them. And I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself and maybe say where you're from originally. And I kind of just said what you're studying. Maybe maybe dive in a little deeper to that and say maybe like what your research is in one sentence, and how long you've been at Purdue. So let us start with Angel.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Angel Enriquez. I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm a third-year PhD student in biomedical engineering. And right now, my thesis work is on improving the safety and reliability of implantable medical devices. We can go more into it if anyone has any questions. But yeah, that's the general gist of it.
Okay, Dana?
Hi, can you guys all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Dana Obanoff. I am a fourth-year PhD student working out at Zucro Labs, and I am in mechanical engineering. And my research area is studying sprays in supersonic and hypersonic flows and using lasers to try and characterize the sprays and the flows.
Excellent. Thank you, Dana. And now Samosmita?
Hi, I'm a third-year master's student, and I am working on brain tumor segmentation using deep learning.
Excellent. Okay, and maybe let's transition really quickly and chat about why did you decide to go and get a graduate degree? So let's start maybe with Dana.
Yeah, okay, so I did research at my undergraduate institution, and I absolutely loved doing research then. I knew I wanted to continue, even if, long-term I was thinking, industry, maybe I'd want to do R&D route, but I guess for the time being, I saw the most amount of learning opportunity coming from getting a graduate degree, a research-based graduate degree, especially at a very research-heavy institution such as Purdue. And so I think a lot of that was just influence from my undergraduate research advisor, encouraging me a lot, and kind of being that I'd been in school and it felt like now was a good time for me to want to be able to continue with that. And I was kind of, already used to everything that I was all the studying habits and, taking classes and everything like that. So yeah, it seemed like a natural progression for me, at least going straight from undergrad.
Excellent, excellent, thanks. Angel, you want to go next? So why grad school in terms of your career?
Yeah, sure. So I was always interested in biomedical engineering and sort of applying, all these engineering principles towards impacting human health. And so I thought the best route would be maybe in industry. And I actually had a co-op, did that for about 7 months. And although I enjoyed it, I didn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life, and started looking into more about research and research at my undergrad institution. And from there, I really enjoyed just having the constant challenge and learning new things every day. And then I had the opportunity to do a summer research experience here at Purdue, specifically in the biomedical engineering department. I really fell in love with the experience right from the start. And it was just a logical step after that. I really wanted to explore what academia was, and the PhD route was the way to go.
Excellent. Okay. And Samosmita?
Yeah, so in my undergrad, I had a little bit of an experience in research, and I was working with algorithms for brain tumor saliency detection and things like that. And that left me really confused at the end of undergrad, because I didn't really know if I wanted to, if I knew that I wanted to do something for the rest of my life, or if I wanted to know more. So in that confusion, I just really wanted to spend time getting to know more and give some time, explore the options, and also figure it out. So my first year in the master's program, I did an internship over summer, and then I realized that this the courses, I'm interested in the courses, and I'm interested in the research. And so right now I'm doing a master's with thesis option, and I'm planning to progress into a PhD at Purdue.
Sorry, I was trying to do my happy dance and I was muted, so hey. So I guess one question that I think most of the attendees on here might wonder is, how is being a grad student right now during a pandemic similar and different to how it was before you entered the program? And you know, like you might be able to talk about how it's changed, but how you kind of see it yinging back, or basically like what are your opinions of before, after, and where do you think it's going to go next? So maybe we'll start with, we'll go reverse. We'll start with Smita.
Yeah. So most of the work that I do, it's more based on like computers. So I have connection to my machine in the lab from my home. So I'm actually really enjoying the time that I get. Like, you know, I'm saving up time in transportation, and I can sit at home. If I'm hungry, I just go to the kitchen, which is like really near, and I don't have to like, you know, figure out what to pack for lunch and stuff like that. So for me, it's not been too much of a difference, except like I'm at home a lot and I'm not getting to meet my lab mates, but then you still have like virtual ways to talk to them, virtual ways to have meetings, and that's all been great. And that's mainly because of where my research is and what I'm doing. So that's been my experience so far.
Excellent. Dana, you want to go next?
Yeah, so I think I had a different experience, being that I do largely experimental based work. So back in March, when shelter in place was, or when that first started up and we couldn't go into the labs, it was a really abrupt transition. Over the course of 1 week, everything changed. And it was a bit tough in the beginning, trying to get accustomed to being at home so much and, you know, making the most of my time. That was all, you know, stuff I could do on my laptop. So it was a lot of reading papers and writing and, you know, stuff like that. But they did a pretty good job of finding ways to be able to get us back into the lab in a relatively short amount of time, like probably about 2 months. And since then, at least doing experimental work in the test cells and stuff, it has pretty much gone back to the same as it was before, just with the ability to be able to go in and do the work that I need to. I think the only thing now that's just very different than before is, you know, if I do stuff on my laptop, like image processing, I have to do that at home, and I deeply miss working with my office mates. So that's, I think, the thing that I'm missing the most. But other than that, I don't feel like everything. I think Purdue has done a really good job of making sure it hasn't impacted my degree progress or ability to work on my thesis work.
Which is so important, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
That's why you're here. So excellent. Angel?
Yeah, no, I agree with Dana. I mean, at the beginning, when the work from home order was placed, you know, it was a little bit challenging having the unlimited ability of grabbing snacks, or being a step away from taking a nap as well. Like, my bed was right there. But you grew into it, and I took advantage that at that time I was trying to, you know, get some writing done. So it was really nice to just focus on that. And then, as Dana said, like in about 2 months, the lab started opening up, and I can say now that it's almost back to normal. I come to the lab every day. I can stay at home if I want to, but I really prefer the lab environment to work from. And Purdue and BME specifically also has made a lot of precautions to make you feel safe, you know, and not necessarily worry too much when you're coming in. I actually feel safer here than in other places.
Excellent. So I guess transitioning just a little bit, how is graduate school different from undergrad? And so I'll let whoever wants to go first with this one go first.
I can go ahead and start. So I actually had a little bit of a tougher time in the beginning, I think, because I did go into grad school with the expectation that it would be very similar to undergrad, in that my main focus, at least in the first semester here, was very much on, you know, doing my absolute best in my classes and kind of making that my focus. And it was different transitioning my mentality to, you know, of course, wanting to do well in my classes and make the most of the opportunity to take the classes I wanted to, but being able to focus a lot more of my time and attention onto my research. And so I think that was something that took me, like, for sure, the full first semester to kind of transition how I managed my day-to-day work, treating grad school, I think, more like a kind of 9-to-5 job than I probably did with undergrad. where it was, going to a lot of classes and like clubs and activities versus here, I usually go to my office 8 or 9 in the morning, and I'm usually at the lab until early evening. And then I guess the nice thing is once I come home, I don't have to be thinking as much about work and on the weekends and stuff like that, other than maybe homework on occasion. But I think that was just a different transition. Perhaps people who have worked in industry or working other jobs in between undergrad and grad school might find the transition a little bit smoother. But I think that's one thing that I've grown to really like. But I think it's definitely an important thing to just know that it will be like a bit of a transition, or it's good not to approach it with the same exact mindset.
Yeah, I can say that when you go to graduate school, right, you're expected to take 2 to 3 classes a semester, whereas in undergrad, you're taking almost 5 or maybe 6. And so that transition is very difficult in terms of, so what do you do with this extra time? And it's research, right? And then you also have to sort of get accommodated to your lab's environment, what they do, and understand how your advisor works, how to take advantage of or not take advantage, to learn from your lab mates as well. So it's definitely a transition at that first semester, but after that first semester, you start understanding how everything flows, and you start being more productive from then on. So yeah, it's a transition for sure.
For me, I did my undergrad in computer science and engineering, whereas in grad school, I'm in electrical and computer engineering. So the courses, the structures around which the courses are based, they're a little bit different. So when I came into grad school, just going to classes and figuring out that they had a more mathematical stress or like things like that, that was a little different for me. And also in undergrad, you have a more I think you are more on a surface level, but as you dive into grad school, you go more deeper into these subjects. So that in the beginning, when I just saw that there were like less credit hours, I was like, okay, so I have a lot of time and I'm going to just, do other things, try to be a little bit more into other activities than I were and when I was in my undergrad. But that sort of didn't turn out that well initially, but then I could, really understand how to sort of cope up and then work on me spending more time in these particular classes. Also, I guess the important thing is when you're right out of undergrad, you really have a lot of knowledge. You've touched a lot of things on a more shallow level, and you want to figure out what you want to do, because especially if you're a little bit research inclined, or you want to do a thesis, or you want to move on to a PhD, you would want to it's like you're dedicating a lot of time to it. You're dedicating the next 4 years of your life to this. So you sort of want to figure out what is it among all the things that you like that you really want to focus on. So I guess transitioning there was more about working with different professors and finding out what they're working on, what kind of gels well with me, who am I comfortable working with, things like that. Those were sort of important to figure out, and I'm glad I did. Otherwise, it could be tough in grad school. And that was what my experience was.
Yeah, thank you guys. So I've seen a few things come through the chat or the Q&A, and some questions about basically how interdisciplinary are your groups, and how much do you collaborate with other people? So maybe we'll do lightning round with this one, and so maybe talk about interdisciplinary research that you might be doing or who you're working with. Maybe start with Angel.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I recently finished a project or published on a project that involved the participation of 4 labs. And so our lab specifically works on devices. So I worked on actuators, and there was another lab that worked on culturing cells, understanding how they respond to this actuation mechanism that we developed. And then other labs focused on doing the simulations of that, of the actuation mechanism. So it was very interdisciplinary and very cool to see how in this biomedical engineering world, all these different skills can come in and make a more complete research. So definitely, I can speak up for biomedical engineering that you depend on having that interdisciplinary collaboration to make really cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. Does Dana or Samosmita, do either of you want to comment? Yeah.
Yeah. So I work. So my lab basically has a biomedical engineering component and also a mechanical, and we have electrical and computer engineering. And for me, although I have worked on like biomedical data or like MRIs particularly, but I have never understood until like recently I wasn't able to understand what really goes in. So there were other members in my group. We actually image actual humans in an MRI machine on the MRI facility on campus. And then you have the mechanical component where there are helmets basically measuring concussions in players and things like that. So that was something that sort of opened up, like looking at how they were dealing with it, and just figuring out more about what I'm working on, but just something that never really popped up on my research, but I could see other people do it. And that was really fun and interesting.
All right, I guess I can jump in and add a little bit to that. That's I think one of the things that I found the most neat about grad school is just that we kind of all start out taking very similar classes, with other people in your group or at your lab, and from there kind of narrow down our own individual focuses to something very specific. But it's neat that we all still sort of like pull from the same toolboxes, and yet sometimes you'll come across an issue that you're like, I have no idea how to approach this, but one of my good friends that I took this class with a while back specializes in this exact thing, and you can call them up and maybe collaborate on things together, or they can give you some of their insight. And so I think that's one thing that's really neat. But yeah, in general, I would say most projects that I know of tend to have a good handful of people that are contributing each kind of their own specific knowledge and skill set too.
Excellent. Okay, so what advice do you have for others thinking about graduate school? And it might another question might dovetail a little bit with this. So advice for people thinking about grad school, and maybe something that surprised you when you started that you weren't expecting. So either or. Who wants to start?
So the question was, what advice for applying to grad school, or like?
Yeah, for applying, or for those who are thinking about graduate school, if you have any useful advice of things that maybe you learned along the way that you'd like to kind of share, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. No, a good advice that I always give to friends that are considering grad school, or people that I know that are considering it, is to make sure that whatever program you choose has the right project that you really are passionate about. And that's the most important thing, right? Like you choose a project or a lab that works on something that you're really interested in, because this is something, as Samosmita said, you're going to be working on this for 4 to 5 years, and it's going to be a part of your life. So it better be something that you're interested in. When you dedicate time to it, you don't feel like it's heavy work. It's actually something that you're interested in, you're curious about. So that's one thing that I really try to push on people that are deciding for grad school.
Mm-hmm. Dana, do you have any advice?
Yeah, so piggybacking off that, I think that's for sure the advice that most grad students would end up giving to prospective students is both your project and your advisor, making sure that you are familiar with the kind of work that they do and that their students do, so you can look up on Google Scholar some of their more recent publications and read some of their students' papers and get a good idea of what kind of work goes on in their labs, especially if you get accepted by a professor or you get the opportunity to interview with them, making sure you really ask them a lot of detailed questions about the kind of projects that they might have available. Because I've certainly seen a lot of people come in just not really knowing anything about their advisor or the kind of projects they'd be put on, and have had a really difficult time trying to sort out, either learning to cope with that project or trying to find something that they would prefer. And I think in general, it makes your experience a lot better if you just go into the whole thing a lot more informed, and being proactive earlier on in the application process, especially. So I think that's an important thing, and making sure as well that you like your advisor, that you can talk with them and you feel comfortable with them, because your advisor can have a lot of influence on your life and your work. And so making sure that there's somebody that you respect and can get along with well, I think is another really important thing.
Yeah, I think the application process starting early, that's very important. And also, one of the things that I learned during my application process was that it's not really about like the program and what the rank of the program is. It's more about the work that's going on and how much you could resonate with that work, or if you find something particularly fascinating or something that you want to spend or dedicate at least a year to, because even if you get in as a master's student, you have to spend at least a year. Or like if you can do all the credits in one semester, that's great. But you need to be willing to spend that time. So like really think it through before like, applying, because this is going to be your life for the next 1 year at the least. And this is a place that you're going to go. This is an environment that you're signing up for. And this is going to be a educational environment. So if you want to get into like the industry and you're like, you want to take, both of those are different environments. So just really knowing what you're signing up for, I think that's important.
Yeah, so I guess piggybacking off of some of your answers there is, how do you be proactive in finding a mentor? Like, what do you do in that sense? Or what did you guys do? Did you guys search the web? Did you guys reach out to them directly? Maybe quick responses on that, and maybe Samosmita, maybe talking about maybe like how you did that as a master's student, and while you're thinking about going into your PhD, how did you kind of reframe, and are you just transitioning with the same project? Are you looking for a whole other research group? Maybe just kind of elaborating on how you found and how you can be proactive in finding a mentor.
So my first semester here, I sort of went to, I had a list of professors that I wanted to work with. I found out of the internet, looked at their work, and I reached out to them. A few of them responded back to me, and a few of them I just went to their door and knocked and like, hey, can I, just sit in your meetings or something like that? And and through this process, I found my master's primary advisor, and I worked with him for 1 year, and then after that, I sort of there are like new professors coming in because new professors are being hired by the schools, and I met my secondary advisor for my master's thesis, and we got on really well. I was very fascinated with his work, which is a little different from my primary advisors, but then I had that flavor to add to my own research. Unfortunately, my primary advisor from my master's, he had to leave Purdue. And that was like a very, and that kind of put me into this decision on whether I should continue or if I shouldn't. But I was lucky enough to find another professor who I am planning to continue on my PhD work with. So there are but all of that was something that I was interested in at that point of my life. So it kept changing and evolving. So my idea that I began with, it's not really the same, but it's also it's something that I'm passionate about now. And it also works with my environment. So I've been very fortunate, and that's been great.
Excellent. Anhel?
Yeah, so for example, I started looking through Google, just putting implantable medical device labs, and started looking through some universities. And once you find the PI, they typically have this lab page, and one of their sections is also if they have any opportunities available. And so they provide this email that you can contact them. And of course, some of them don't answer, but hey, it doesn't hurt to try, right? And I kept messaging all of these labs that I was interested in, and one of them was my advisor currently, and I expressed interest in his work and asked some questions about his research, and sort of gave him my CV as well so he could see what I had done. And we had a conversation right after that, a phone call. And it was very nice to just talk to him, and we had a great conversation going. It was, you know, good chemistry from the start. And then when I actually came for the visit, it was the same. And so that's sort of how I got to choose my current advisor.
All right, I guess I can share my experience. I also did a similar thing, and I initially started with Google Scholar, just kind of typing in various things that I was interested in. And then also, I think with Purdue in specific, I was perusing through the faculty webpage and happened across my advisor's specific page from there, and reached out to him. And I actually didn't get any response initially, but I still submitted an application. And then that's when I ended up hearing back from him. But yeah, I think that's a really important thing to emphasize, is starting by emailing professors you may be interested in working with, and starting that process kind of as soon as you can, so that way you maximize the opportunity of being able to hear back from them. And I think another important thing is that if you do get accepted in any programs or get the opportunity to visit, I don't know if that'll be happening with the current pandemic situation, but maybe it might be like virtual visits. If they give you contact information for their current grad students, really taking advantage of that opportunity, because I think current grad students have a lot of insight in, you know, day-to-day working conditions and types of projects going on, all that kind of stuff, to give you enough information for you to be able to decide if that's a good fit for you as well. So I think that's like another good way to get a good idea of what kind of a program you would want to choose, what kind of professor you want to work with.
Yeah, and I agree. I will shameless plug that, you know, sometimes it can be really awkward reaching out to faculty, right? But you guys are all virtually here, part of the Grad Expo, right? So use that as a platform, right? And reach out to faculty and say, hey, I did a virtual visit with the Big Ten Plus Graduate School Expo. You know, do you have a chance, you send it via email, do you have a chance maybe to meet? We have a lot of faculty who are going to be participating later on tonight and as well as tomorrow. So, you know, definitely take advantage of those opportunities, talk to as many faculty as you can. And if the faculty of interest isn't here, email them, right? Reach out. You have a Purdue adjacent contact, so use it. Okay, and so now a topic that I know a lot of people have been asking about in the Q&A, funding. So, you know, how are you paying for graduate school? Who wants to start? Maybe Dana, you wanna go for it?
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. So funding is something that I've had a lot of different funding sources in my time at Purdue, and I've been very fortunate that I have always been funded. So even though, you know, a lot of semesters they may have been stressed of like, oh, which funding source am I going to be able to get funding from? I've never actually had to worry about, oh, I'm legitimately not going to get funding and I don't know how I'm going to, you know, afford to pay my rent or, you know, pay tuition and stuff like that. So I've never had that stress, which I'm very grateful for. And I think generally speaking, most people I know also haven't had stress on that level. I guess I can speak mostly, at least for, you know, my lab in that case. But I have been a TA before, which was actually a really cool experience. I didn't think I would like it that much because I'm not great at teaching, but I quite enjoyed doing that. And I didn't think that was too much of a commitment of my time every week. And it was also good, you know, just kind of character building experience and resume building experience. I also worked for a semester actually as a test operations engineer for a Blue Origin project that was happening at Purdue. And even though that wasn't contributing to my thesis work, that was still incredible hands-on experience. And I'm forever grateful that I was able to, you know, network with that and just get a lot of hands-on experience that was kind of outside of my main focus. So that was another neat thing. And then I think most of the rest of the time in grad school so far, I've been fortunate to be funded through a research assistantship. But definitely, I think Purdue has a lot of really good opportunities for funding if you're proactive about it. They have a lot of resources out there. And so I think if you start early figuring out how you're going to get funding, and you're always on top of it throughout your whole experience, and applying for fellowships and all that kind of stuff, then it's not something that you hopefully will have to worry about too much.
Yeah, I agree with Dana on that. So when I started, I got offered a fellowship by the College of Engineering for 2 years, and so this is my third year, and now I'm funded by a TA, teaching assistantship. And so I have not had to worry about money problems or funding opportunities. It's a really nice benefit to have, and so yeah, that's at least my funding experience.
I actually got, with my admission letter, I got this thing called a guaranteed funding TA, the guaranteed TA thing. So basically it was valid for 2 years, and I was guaranteed to get funding as a teaching assistant for 2 years so that's basically 4 semesters at Purdue in electrical and computer engineering. And I really didn't know that I liked teaching, or even just explaining things to people in general. But through this experience, I figured out that I really enjoyed it. And right now it's the starting of my 3rd year, and I received another TA offer. And what I've heard from people in general is that you are, as a grad student, especially if you move on to PhD, or if you're doing on research, you're covered. Like, you would figure out some form of funding or the other. There are fellowships. There are also RA opportunities. There are RA opportunities that are from specific companies, so you have to work on their work, or you can be funded for independent projects, and all of that exists. So as long as you figure out what you want to do, or like how you want to approach this, it's rare. I mean, in my, let's say, in the sample set of people that I have come across, it's rare people do not have funding in grad school.
And I will piggyback off of this and just let you guys know that funding tends to always it goes first to people who are doing research. So this tends to be more of our PhD students who are pursuing research, and then also kind of our thesis master's students. If you are in a non-thesis master's program, it is funding is much more difficult to get if you're in a professional master's based program, and so that's all coursework. There is no form of assistantships that are available to you in those programs. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I did see a question on funding options for non-thesis grad students, and I would just say that the funding tends to really go towards people doing research and pretty much driving the research enterprise forward. So I just wanted to put that out there. And so I guess there's a few questions that came through, and we're maybe backtracking just a little bit, but there was a question of, Purdue is located in a rural area, not in a big city. So maybe why did you choose Purdue over kind of a large city environment? Was that a factor? Was the location a factor for you guys in choosing where to pursue your graduate studies?
Okay, so being in a small university town, it has its advantages and disadvantages. So rent, very cheap. Cost of living is really low. And it's a small town, so you are kind of familiar with a lot of places, and the places are familiar with you. I grew up in a city, and I'm an international student from India, and I have seen a lot of there's a lot of crowd. There's a lot of people around me where I'm from. And when I came into Purdue, I was shocked that there's very less human beings. And I actually enjoy that. I enjoy being away from the crowd, and I enjoy the fact that if I go into a restaurant or a place enough times, then the people recognize me, and then there's a set of people I know there who are always there. So like, you make friends that way, and that's kind of fun. Also, being located in a small town, we have a lot of groups and clubs on campus. So there are a lot of activities over the weekends, which, I mean, at least before the COVID situation happened, that we would go over the weekends or even during the week. And that was always fun to me. So this kind of helps me. I mean, this worked out for me because of what I enjoy and what's being offered here. So that was my experience.
And I can go next. So I came here from the San Francisco Bay Area. So that was also a pretty big change in scenery and weather, and just, population density. And in the beginning, I actually, my first year to 2 years here, I wasn't a huge fan of the small town feel and the fact that it's, West Lafayette's more rural and kind of, isolated. It's an hour drive to the nearest big city. So it took me a while to get accustomed to, but I've come to like it. I can still say definitively it's maybe not for me long term, but I love the people that I work with, and we spend a lot of time hanging out and have gotten, I think, pretty creative over time with exploring about everything that there is in West Lafayette and Lafayette, whether it be different restaurants to go to and hiking trails, or taking day trips up to Indianapolis or weekend trips up to Chicago. So I don't feel like I'm, missing out on some of the benefits of a big city quite as much, because I still always feel like I have really fun things to do with people that I really enjoy being around. So the only thing that I don't think I'll ever get accustomed to is just the weather. But, I think it's something that I can deal with, being as a whole, I like my research and the people that I'm surrounded by. So, that's just one downside for a lot of good things that I have.
I would say, coming from Boston, I was really surprised at the fact that we get more ice than snow here in Indiana. I thought, as a grad student in Boston, I kept my shovel in my trunk. I'd be digging out my car and after lab, and I'm like, wait, I don't need my shovel here? And so it was pretty exciting in that regard. It gets cold and icy, but but definitely different from the Bay Area. So, Anhel?
Yeah, no, I agree with both what Dana and Samasmita said. I came from Puerto Rico. The weather was a total shock. First winter ever here in Indiana, but I've grown accustomed to it completely. And I really enjoy the fact that it's a small town, not a lot of distractions, and so you can focus on your research. But if you want to get away for a weekend, you always have Chicago at 2 hours away, or Indianapolis even just an hour away. So really, it's just up to you to decide and find that group of friends to do all these fun things with. And really, it's I've grown very much fond of West Lafayette.
Okay, we have a really great question in the Q&A. If you had an opportunity to go back in time, what would you change during your undergrad years to prepare for graduate school?
I can start with that one. So there was one time in undergrad where I had the opportunity. So I was kind of already thinking about research, but I was given the opportunity to either join a professional team, sort of making a race car to go to the States to compete against other universities, or to go to a research lab and do research for a semester there. And yes, FSAE, I see that in the chat. And so I kind of went into the racing team just because I knew a lot of people there. I had a lot of friends, and the ability to go to go to the States to compete was pretty nice. But thinking back now, that research experience would have prepared me a little bit more for grad school instead of the competition. But still, it was something I still think about.
Mine's a little different. So I stayed at home during my undergrad, and what I think I should have done is learned to be a little bit more independent during my undergrad, because when I came to grad school, it was a little hard to adjust, like, doing everything on my own, which was very new to me. And that was like, I really needed to grow up in my undergrad, which I didn't. So that's just really me. But it's like you're living alone. Probably. And you're working, and you have like your time, you're constrained in time and everything else. So you really need to plan out. So like I would have liked to learn like time management skills and things like that better during my undergrad rather now.
I think for me, the only thing that I've encountered in my time in grad school that I have thought like, oh man, I kind of wish I had done this before, is actually applying for fellowships. And again, I've been very fortunate that I have always been funded throughout my time in grad school, but some of the fellowships are kind of nice in that, it's guaranteed either throughout the duration of your degree or maybe for 3 years or something, guaranteed funding, and it also pays better than the Purdue funding. I mean, not that, I think most people are financially struggling. Like, it's a pretty inexpensive area to live in, and, Purdue does pay you well enough, but it's always nice to have that little bit of extra cash coming in every month. And so that's a big thing to take into consideration. And for people who may not know, because I didn't have anybody when I was in undergrad who, mentioned any of these fellowships that are quite prestigious, that a lot of them applications, like the deadlines are coming up towards the end of October and November. So I think that's something for people who might be interested in that is a good thing to be proactive now. And I think Purdue, as well as maybe for, some people, if you're still in undergrad, probably have information on, university websites and stuff about good graduate fellowships to be applying for. So that's something I think to be very proactive of during the application process, in addition to like applying for all the grad schools.
Great answers, guys. Yeah, I agree with all of those. Okay, another fun one. So what do you do for fun? Or maybe like to keep your mental health, right? Mental health is very important because grad school, again, it's the long haul. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? So what do you do for fun to kind of keep yourself sane?
I enjoy the outdoors a lot. And I think this is something that I've been telling a lot of people coming to Purdue. We have this really great club called the Purdue Outing Club. And it's one of the great, like, I like it. But so like, like adventure stuff. So my first year here, I sort of joined this, and they have this annual race, which is 48 hours in the snow. It was the snow at that point of time. So it's winter, and you're in a national park, like a state forest, and you kind of go from point to point. You have no technology, 48 hours in the wild. So that is something that kind of interested me, and I could get these opportunities here. So there's also a hiking club, and I like go, and there are a lot of hiking trails. There's a state park, little off like Women Are, the Turkey Run Shades, and different places like that. So those are fun things to do, and I like that. Also the COREC, and I heard like a little bit before that there was somebody who had a question about like how's the COREC situation right now after the COVID. So I like going to the COREC, and right now it is pretty open. So I actually have today at 8 p.m. I have a reservation at the COREC facility access. So they have like, you sort of like reserve certain slots, and that's how you go in there. You have a face mask on all the time. You have to work out with your face mask on, and it's fine. It's worked out great. I've been going there for since it's reopened actually. It was closed for a bit, but you have a pool there. You have a climbing wall, which is closed right now, but the pools are open. So I've been swimming there as well. And those are activities that I enjoy. You also have Group X, which is like a special kind of class subscription you have at the COREC. You could learn things like Zumba. You could do like just fun stuff, kickboxing. You could do Tai Chi. You could do deep water fitness. So you have a trainer who's like there guiding you through like lifting weights in the water, which is kind of fun. So those are things that I enjoy and I have been doing while I have been in grad school, and that kind of helps me keep sane. And just hanging out, going to restaurants, trying to explore the limited cuisine options we have, but it's great. I kind of have fun, so that's it.
Yeah, same as Somosmita. I enjoy going out hiking a lot, and visited all those state parks you've mentioned. And we have a national park in Indiana now with the dunes. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities to go outdoors and hike. And then right now they're opening a lot of restaurants and bars. So there's a lot of new stuff and exciting places to go to. Really enjoy that. I go to co-rec as well, and it feels very safe as long as you have your face mask, and you also wipe down your equipment. It really you really feel safe. And I started a band recently, so I've been doing some of that as well. So yeah, you definitely can find your fun here. It's all good.
I think one observation that I've kind of made, and I certainly went through this experience where I felt like in undergrad I had, just so many things to be involved in and so many things going on 24/7, that when I came to grad school and suddenly had just kind of a lot more time to myself, realizing I didn't really have any hobbies before I came here. And I know a lot of my friends went through a similar experience in the beginning. And that's one of my favorite things about grad schools, because most people who go to grad school are people who always want to improve themselves, not only professionally, but also personally. And just seeing what neat hobbies everyone has picked up as they've been going along. So, I personally have gotten really into baking is kind of my big thing that I do now. And spending a lot of time with friends, being able to go out hiking, and, we're big foodies. So we try like pretty much every single restaurant in the area, or driving around to other bits in Indiana and Illinois, trying different restaurants, like running, things like that. And, I have a lot of friends who have also picked up like cool things, not only to do with their friends, but also kind of individually. And it's neat that you may have a friend who's like, oh, I'm trying to learn German. Do you want to like learn German with me? And so I ended up taking a German class here at Purdue as a result of that. So just so many different things I wouldn't have come into grad school thinking I was going to pick up and start, doing in my free time. But every few months, I'm always like surprising myself with some new thing that I'm trying out. So.
That's awesome. I had a friend in grad school who loved to stress bake, and let me just tell you, every week it was something new on like the shelf outside the lab. It was fun. Okay, so another great question from the Q&A is, what is one resource that you found indispensable for in graduate school? Like if there's one thing that like you couldn't have done without in order to help you kind of get through your research, what would that be? That's a hard one, I know. Yeah. Any takers?
Oh yeah, you can go ahead, Dana. No worries.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, actually, I think my favorite resource is the other people that I work with. Not only for, I guess, like support with if there's something in my research that, is new to me, and maybe I don't know, probably in my lab somebody else has already encountered that and thought through that problem or might have insight. But also I think for the emotional support, because I certainly found that talking to a lot of my friends from back home and my family, they all want to be supportive, but a lot of times they couldn't really understand some of the things that I was struggling with, or, stress that I had. They couldn't relate to it because they'd never been in that experience. And so I think that was something that I learned early on, is that it is really nice to be able to open up to other people who are going through the same experiences as you are day to day, or might, just want to sit down and complain about the same thing, or like celebrate the same thing that, they also, took that qualifying exam and you guys can celebrate passing it together, things like that. And so I think just the people that work around you and your friends and your lab group, all those people are going to be one of the best resources in your time in grad school.
Yeah, I second what Dana said. It's crazy important to have that circle of people that you can ask questions and sort of have feedback with about certain projects or ideas that you have. I also want to say that a great resource is the Berk Nanotechnology Center. At least for my work, I really depend on them. And how it works, you present a project to them and how you're going to use their facilities. And they have a group of engineers that sort of help you out in determining what equipment you're going to use, how to train you. And it's very well organized, and it's really a world-class facility. So I'm very grateful for that resource.
Yeah, family and friends. I mean, the kind of relationships you develop in grad school with your close-knit group of friends. Those are definitely things that are important as you navigate your course. Research-wise, I would say the RCAC class scholar clusters on Purdue, like CPU and GPU clusters, that have helped me in my work, at least in the initial stages. But also when you're navigating grad school, you have it's important to like focus on your mental health as well. And Purdue has CAPS, which sort of helps you if you need to go for one-on-one sessions, or if you just want to go visit the resources and things like that. And that's really helpful, especially since like you're alone and you have a high workload. You also have to feed yourself and take care of yourself and things like that. And every now and then people might need a little bit of extra help, and that's totally okay. And Purdue has that facility, and I think that that has helped a lot of people in grad school and undergrad both.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. So we're coming to a close for our time, so we will do maybe one more question. And it's probably the most exciting because this is very much about you guys. So, and I think I touched upon at the beginning, but I just want to kind of come back to it. There's a number of different kind of careers that you can take with a PhD or a master's degree. So maybe talk about, what specific thing are you thinking about doing after graduation? If you're not sure, that's fine. Share that, right? Or if you have a few different balls in the air, just to help inform some of the undergrads or maybe other students in the room, maybe what you can do with a graduate degree and what you're planning on doing in your general area.
I can go ahead and start out. So I actually initially started out grad school thinking for sure I wanted to go into academia and I really wanted to be a professor. And over time just learned that it is not for me. And so that left me kind of lost for a long time. I think I was heavily leaning the other direction towards thinking industry. But I actually got an internship at a national lab last summer. In May of 2019 is when I started, and I've actually continued working with them year-round as an intern ever since then. And so I love working there. It is just someplace I can really envision myself working long-term. So my game plan is, after I finish my PhD at Purdue, to try and go do a postdoc at a national lab and kind of see where that takes me.
After my undergrad, I wanted to explore more, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I wanted to spend time learning. And I think I spoke about the internship that I did. It was at a startup. And I guess for me, it was not like really what I wanted to do. It was more about eliminating what I didn't want to do. And interning at a startup kind of wasn't for me. So I got to eliminating that part. And then so far, being a TA, having the experience, over summer I taught a course, so that gave me some more experience in academia, and that's a maybe, may not be, not sure. I want to do it co-op maybe in a year or something like that, just to figure out if I fit into the industry. So I'm not really sure about what I would really want to do, but I'm just trying to figure out what I could do, what I do not want to do, and kind of eliminate that and kind of figure out where I want to go.
And yeah, the plan for me has been to try to go into academia, be a professor. And so right now my plan is, after a PhD, try to do a postdoc in a lab, and from there start applying for faculty positions across Puerto Rico possibly, and other universities that would be willing to accept my research.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Okay. And very last question. How much sleep did you get last night? And maybe, maybe I guess asking this on a Sunday is not fair. I guess in a general weekday, do you get enough sleep? How do you kind of juggle the balance of work and self-care and mental health? So I guess quick responses, and then we will wrap up.
Well, for me, it comes and goes in waves. I have some times where I'll have like 3 or 4 days if I'm like trying to get through a test campaign that's really intense, where it'll not be too much sleep every night, maybe 3 to 6 hour range. And then I'll have other times where I could easily get like 8 to 10 hours if I wanted to. So, but normally if I'm not sleeping that much, it's kind of my own fault. So.
Yeah, I typically sleep 6 to 8 hours, and as Diana said, there are times where that's not enough. And so, it just depends it fluctuates.
So before the pandemic hit, I used to work like in the lab from like 8 a.m. all the way till 8 p.m. sometimes, and then get home really late and get very less sleep during the weekdays. And during the weekend, I would try to catch up on sleep. But right now I figured out the schedule where I keep it light all through 7 days and I work all through 7 days. So I try to mix it up, and that kind of helps me. So far, so good. And I sleep about 6 to 11 hours kind of ranges. So it varies.
Well, thank you guys so much again. I'm giving you a virtual round of applause, which I'm sure all the students on the that you can't see